Okay, guys. So probably we are done with the waiting now. So hopefully you guys can hear me. Am I audible?
Yes, Utkarsh, I can hear you. This
All
is
right,
Aditya.
all right, Aditya.
Yeah, I will fire.
Okay, okay. So what I'll do, I'll keep you guys, mute. If you have anything to ask, you can probably, come back and ask it on chat because I don't want it to have a lot of noise interference and all. Okay. Okay, so let's get started. So again, welcome. Thanks for joining this session. My name is Utkarsh Pandey. I'm a cloud consultant working as a cloud solution architect for 8K Miles. And as part of collaboration between Microsoft and 8K Miles, I also share the responsibility of doing technical consulting for Microsoft. So typically speaking, I travel across, around the customers, helping them understand Azure, and if needed, guide them on migrating their legacy app to cloud. So I'm a DevOps kind of guy. That's my fortress. So I love talking about automation, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, and so forth. I have completed all three Microsoft certification: 532, 533, and 534 to be a qualified, Azure solution architect. And I was initially few to do so in this country. So and again, I'm also Amazon certified solution architect. So in a nutshell, I'm a cloud agnostic guy, having more than half a decade of experience on various public cloud platforms like Microsoft Azure, AWS, or even a bit of Google Cloud Computing. And okay, so what I'll do, I'll share the introduction about the company which I represent. So 8KML is a company which is born in cloud. So they started way back some along with AWS. When AWS first came in, 8KMS was there to help them, and we have a very long history and very very kind of a close relationship with AWS on that front. We have headquarters at San Roman Bay Area, California. We have offices at Dallas, Los Angeles, Chicago, and Toronto in Northern America. We have a strength of more than 400 people spreading across architects, engineering, DevOps, SysOps, and all these levels. We have partnership with Microsoft where we are a recognized silver partner with them, and and we are a strategic partner of CA as well. So if in India we are located in Chennai, and most of our architects and professionals, they work out from this place uh, along with the sales team and everybody else across the globe. So and also just to add on, if you miss any part, you can use, there is a section called raise button, raise your hand section, where you can put your messages. I'll see that because I have kept you guys on mute, so I'll probably not be able to hear you. So if you have anything which needs my attention, you can raise there, and or even you can send it over chat. I'll make sure it should get sorted out. Okay, so I'll share my screen, so that we can have I just have few slides to share with you guys also, so that will help us to be attentive on the content. So okay, so can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I'm able to.
Okay, 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 great. So okay, so as I told this training is specifically tilted towards Azure architects, not specifically towards the cloud, but today's session will be focusing towards to the Azure. And if you want me to, this is a kind of a heads up session where we will try to understand the need of of this session, and what are the things which we are going to get by being there and completing this whole exercise. So there are two kind of objectives which I want to set right away. One is the whole training objective, how we are what we are gonna what we are intended to achieve from this training. And the first one is that so to grow your knowledge and proficiency on Azure. So though we know, like the prime goal of doing this exercise is to get certified, but certification itself doesn't bring everything, for that matter. So you need hands-on and proficiency and actually implementation of a level of knowledge to go and execute certain things. So realistically speaking, that's what I would love to get out of you guys as well. If I can impart that knowledge where you can use that in your day-to-day activities and become a kind of a cloud architect, and by yourself you can design the applications and help customers understand which cloud and which services can be best fit for them. The second one is understand the architecture decision for Azure solution. So when you say any solution, it requires you to be in that position where you can architect it for the best fit services. So Azure is not exempted from that. Azure also comes with quite a few services, and based on those services, when you get to know the customer needs, you have to design it, which one is best fit for which role. So you probably be getting a workflow where you have to pitch in these services which is best suited for that requirement. And then now coming back to the training part of it, like the exam which we are expecting you guys to get certified in. So for that also we will understand the breakdown of exam content, because if you go and check the Microsoft website itself, they have break it down. They have 3 different exams, and they have break it down into different categorize it based on the content, like what they are gonna ask you in that exam. So I'll probably be breaking it down even further, and I'll help you guys understand and provide you the content, the links, the videos which can help you build on that to go and clear those exams. Along with that, if there's any great article which is being written, which can just give you 5 to 6 pointers, because usually what happens with Microsoft exam, if somebody fails in that, or any is sort of any exam, it's just those 5-6 questions which just always keep coming and haunt you because you are not right in that. So for those 5-6 questions, I'll share the links, the details, the knowledge which I have, when I went through that exam. So the key areas where we should be focusing, I'll impart those knowledges to you as well. For this session alone, I would say this session is not actually intended for getting deep into Azure or explaining you the nitty-gritties of Azure, what or what not we can do with Azure. It's a kind of a session where I'll try to explain you the need of cloud computing in general. So the introduction part of cloud computing, from where it comes in, what are the needs of it, and where it can be used, and how you can pitch in cloud when you go to any customer, or even if you're talking to any technical guys, how to explain him, like, okay, if I know cloud, what it actually brings to table. And the second objective would be to let you guys know, like, what are the benefits this Azure certification will bring to you. So the first questions which comes to our mind is the motivations to move to cloud. So whenever you go and talk to some customer, the first thing which they will always ask, what motivates, what is there for me to move into cloud, because I already have something running on premise. So I'm getting what I want, but is there anything which you can bring to the table that's kind of an add-on, and it should not bring them in a position where they have to make a big financial investment in there. So if you have to understand cloud, so the answer lies in that first you have to know a little bit of how things happens on premise, because when you have your in-house infrastructure, you probably go have a real estate and hook all your infrastructure related stuff in that place, and then you take the headache of responsibility of managing the entire stack. It's not the business need. The responsibility which you'll be doing is mostly starts from managing the electricity, managing the cooling of those servers, and even the providing them the internet connectivity through your ISP provider. So that's kind of a headache, in the longer run, because you need a dedicated team to do that. And down the line, you'll feel like, if something goes wrong, that's it. So you don't have a backup, or you need to plan for high availability of that as well, which takes another separate team to execute, probably be there, at some different location from that. So that's where cloud can be really beneficial for the customer. So when you pitch for cloud, the first thing which comes to the mind, it can be anything which you want. That's the first line which sums up. So if you see the characteristic of cloud, as it mentioned, it's on demand. So the first benefit and the most important thing which cloud brings is on demand things it offers. So if you need something, it gives you just right away. You need not to invest or do any R&D or procure any infrastructure, do heavy investment on that. You just go buy that and use it upfront. And you need not to be paying for capital investments. It's not actually a capex model where you have to go and do a massive investment, because like down the line in 5-6 years my infrastructure is going to grow and I'll hit that target of 1 million people accessing my websites. So from upfront, you need not to pay and invest that amount. So it's on demand. So if you have a requirement for say today I need this, I have a requirement where only 10 to 100 of people are going to access that, you probably invest on those 10 to 100 people. Why the hell you're going to invest and put a lot of money just because you think like something is going to happen in future? But you can't just neglect that part as well, because as business grows, you will hit the benchmark, you will hit that target where your servers will not support. So you should be planning in that way. So that on demand is actually intended to resolve those issues which customers will have. So in future, say even today, if I have a burst of people trying to access my websites, I can plan it in cloud in such a way, like on the basis of certain metrics, like 80% of the CPU utilization or number of concurrent users trying to access that. On the basis of that, I can auto scale that infrastructure. That auto scaling part is it's something which is configurable, and in most of the services, when it comes to Azure cloud, they give you built-in capability of it auto scale. So they themselves take care of that aspect as well. So you need not to worry about anything. You just go click, get the subscription, get everything done, and then that's it. You're ready to use that. And the second part is scalable, rapid elasticity. That's what. So just to add to what I was saying before, so it should be scalable. Like when you have a requirement and it's keep on exceeding, and your current infrastructure is not being able to support that, cloud can help you in that, where you can plan for the highest degree of customer trying to access that to the lowest. So in between, you can plan that if my customers are keep coming, keep increasing, or keep bringing the instances, keep bringing the websites up. So in that way, the hardware requirement you can have in your mind, like this is what hardware requirement which I have, and then on the basis of that, you can plan it in the form of services. So you specify at max, I need this hardware capacity for my application to work, and Azure will take care of that. Multi-tenant is something, it's the way Azure or any public cloud provider function. You will be sharing your resources with someone. When I say resources, that's not actually your content, it's the hardware which Microsoft offers you. So the way they have designed it, they will have a list of servers where multiple people will be trying to host their website at one place, but of course they will maintain the security aspect of it. Customers will not be knowing what resides beside them. So that part is taken care by the Microsoft. Self-service, as it's self-explanatory. When you have your on-premise infrastructure managed by yourself, you take care of a lot of other operating system and those nitty-gritty stuff, like the patch management, the hardware upgradation. If something is deprecated, you have to upgrade it to the newer level, and that all will be taken care by the Microsoft, or for that sense any public cloud provider. And of course it's reliable, and utilities which you subscribe to, that's for those you'll be billed. So it's not that you, if you're subscribing for 3 services, you'll not be billed for the 4th one, even if you can have it in your infrastructure. But if you're not, if you haven't started it, you're not consuming it, you can always plan with that, but don't consume it, you'll not be, billed. So that's how it is. That's what the bring cloud to the picture from an in-house point of view. So if you're pitching in for cloud, you first of all, you should understand like these are the capabilities, whether that to bring these capabilities to in-house or or on-premise way of doing, it's very difficult, and it's going to take a lot of efforts and money to get these results, whereas with cloud, with public cloud, you always get that. And when if you ask me to define cloud, so okay, so I think we have a question. So Tariq, do you have anything to ask?
Uh, yeah, I just want to know one thing. What I understand here is for cloud solution, do we need a new setup, or we need can use the cloud solution in existing infrastructure on my applications? Is it right?
Okay, so very good question actually. When you have an in-house infrastructure already in place, there are two ways to migrate it to cloud. First one, where people will always ask this question, like, I have bought these many licenses from Microsoft, what will happen to those licenses, if I move to cloud? So in that sense, Microsoft gives you that smooth transition where you can bring your own licenses to cloud. So whatever investment which you have made, you can take that and utilize it when you move to cloud. So did I answer your question, Sayed?
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I got it.
Okay, so okay, great. So now to coming to the definition of cloud, so to categorize what kind of cloud we are talking about is actually through the deployment model. Deployment model means whatever applications or databases or any services which you're using, which you have, the way you deploy them, that's what differentiate different clouds. So when you talk about private cloud, private cloud is something where you go and buy your real estate, and bring all these infrastructure, glue them together and make them work. So and that's your responsibility. But the one benefit which you'll get it's pretty safe because it's on your premise. So it's not being shared with someone, and you are not risking putting your content somewhere else, because there are customers who, even with the brand name of Microsoft or AWS, they don't feel safe enough to put their data into in their premises, because they don't want data to be compromised. There are few customers who might be just directly fighting for the space with Microsoft or AWS, so they can't give their data to their competitors. So for that, they will build a private cloud. So you can even call the in-house infrastructure or on-premise infrastructure as a kind of a subset to private cloud, but that's not actually that, because there are big players in private cloud section as well. If you talk about IBM, Microsoft itself has its private cloud that they will facilitate that private cloud for customers who have a very real good case to keep the data secure, and and have a broader perspective towards the application, the number of applications which they have, or the customer which they have in there. And public cloud is actually the one which we were talking before. You share the content and everything to your provider, you trust them, so it's kind of a trust relationship. But of course they will be certified with different people, and you with the name of Microsoft, you always feel that they're quite safe, because anyway you're putting all your mobiles and your data with these people, with Google's and Microsoft. So if you feel like your provider is safe, you give them your data, and they will be hosting it. So the hosting part of it, they'll be taking care of that. But there are certain requirements where in cases where you have a set of data which is not intended to be exposed to public, but rest of the things you can keep it to you know on internet or for public access, or when I say public access, it doesn't actually mean HTTP access. It could be, you know, putting it to a provider. So provider is not actually you, so it's Microsoft. So that way you, there is a slight 0.0001% of risking the data. That's what. So for those kind of customers, you always have a hybrid cloud solution where you put some data in house and move other part of it in public cloud and try to, you know, bridge the gap through different connectivity which is being offered. So these are the clouds you know we have. And when you say service model, so it's actually the segregation within the public cloud space. They talk in different terms like infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service. So service is a word which they offers you, because that's what the, you know, the generic meaning of service is even in plain English. But infrastructure as a service is something where they gives you an infrastructure. So you have a brand, you know, new hardware which is being given to you, and you take care of everything from there onwards. So you'll be taking care of the operating system management, you'll be taking care of the, you know, the application which is running on that. So everything is probably be you. But of course certain things which is being taken care by the Microsoft is, because it's always a shared responsibility model where we works with public cloud. So they share the responsibility of managing, you know, providing the proper hardware, managing the availability of that hardware, managing the availability of that operating system, you know, and taking care of where they are going to host it, and what if that infrastructure goes down, you know, how they can have an HA on top of that. So they will, if you something is wrong with this infrastructure, they will probably replicate the same and provide you in the form of service from somewhere else. But their job is to provide that service, so they will make sure it's available always. Whereas the platform is something where it's like you have given certain things which is you know which just captures everything and baked into an image and given to you. So you need not to worry about the operating system management, you need not to worry about the, you know, the hardening of it, or how you these you know, this operating system or patch management will function. You have, you share the responsibility of managing your application. That's it. So you have your application, you just make sure it should function properly. So even if you want to have DR or high availability set up with that application, Microsoft will take care of the infrastructure part of it. You need not to worry about anything. Whereas the third category, software as a services, is like just we subscribe for any software, like, you know, we use Google for Gmail. So we just go add our subscription to them, like we provide our information, we sign up, and then that's it. We are using a separate tenant from Gmail. So that tenant, everybody who's subscribing to Gmail is getting that. So it's in the form of a service of where you are not even exposed to any layer of, you know, management. Everything probably be managed by Microsoft. So so the form of it, you know, you could be say like there's something called blob storage, or storage aspect of it, where they gives you a terabytes of storage option, and you just dump your data in there, and you need not to worry about the drives and you know, tape drives and everything which was usually being used. Okay. And coming back to the training, so Microsoft, for Azure, they have these three, you know, exams. 532 is actually for the developers. So it's intended for the developer guys who knows a bit of development on Azure, to design that, to manage that through Visual Studio, PowerShell, and all that aspect that comes into this. So somebody who comes from a development background, that this exam is intended for that, for those guys, you know. Whereas 533 is something which is more related to IT pro. So if you're an IT pro, you probably relate more to this exam, where it's, you know, more into implementation and infrastructure and other things that, you know, and so forth. Whereas the 534 is the architecture exam. So it's actually, it just wants you to design the certain things or architect certain things and so forth. So it doesn't get, you know, deep into that. 532 and 533 is something which is deep, which is kind of a specialized examination, whereas 534 is something which is generic, where it just asks you to design and architect the application or the existing infrastructure for cloud. So to enable that in a way of cloud using the things which is already available with the Azure. For these exams, as I said, if you go and check the link in Microsoft, they themselves have segregated it, like which portion will be, of questions will come, and what percentage of marks they will have. So it's like segregation of the set. So as I told you before, the content is already being told to by Microsoft, like this will come. I can guide you with the content, like I'll share the best links possible, the best videos possible, which can help you. As I said before, I'll share my experience as well, and I'll always be available over phone, as I've shared my numbers, and through these meetings where we can make it even interactive, where you can go ahead and come up with your own set of questions. We can take it forward from there and see where we can proceed. So I would rather be more focused on exam 534 for you guys, because I see this exam is something which is being valued more, because it gives you a lot of exposure, because there are not many Azure architects in the market at the moment. And as I said, it's not getting deep into certain things. So if somebody is coming from a development background, it's advisable for them to go and write the 534 exam, which is good. But if somebody who's not a developer, he need not to go and bang his head for 532. He can probably be an IT pro and do the 533. But 534 is for everybody. Anyone who knows Azure and who's looking forward to get into Azure business, they should be writing 534, and I'll do my best to share the detailed information to you guys in that. So do you guys have any question for now? Yeah, Tariq.
Yeah, actually, I just want to know one thing. Right now, I'm working in a Mushrik bank as a senior technical analyst. So I just want to know that how also and cloud application can facilitate the financial application. I give you example. Like we are working here to develop application for check clearing applications. Okay,
Okay.
so basically, where we can we have a stakeholder like a customers who come to the bank and check the deposit, and the rest of the processing is going to happen on the back offices. So how cloud solution can helpful in this scenario? I know this is the very too early to ask this question like that, but I just want to know that how the also cloud application facilitate the banking financial applications.
Okay, great. So there's no wrong asking questions, because as I said in the beginning, cloud can be anything you want it to be. So you know so it just you when you say cloud, you just think of it like any on-premise related stuff. So when you go and do the development, say I'll take this your example of application and talk from the development point of view when you start developing. So when you develop certain things, you invest on your development box, your licenses. If you're using Visual Studio, or you're using any developer tool, or continuous delivery tool, which do the automatic builds, automatic deploy, or version controlling things. So that's the investment which you make. So for those kind of application, it need not to be always running. You have people working for 8 hours, not exactly for 24 hours. So why you want to invest for 24 hours? You can always you stop those instances and need not to pay for after 8 hours. So that's where in development part this can be used. So for development, if you need, say, something like even a Linux machine or Windows machine, or you need storage, you need file server, you need email services, you need IAM or authentication part of it. Everything can be given by Microsoft. So you probably need, those test cases and development cases are actually the best fit for Microsoft, or in that sense any public cloud, because for 40% of the users you're investing for 100%. which is not a great business deal. So when you go and talk to your CFOs and anybody who invests that money, he'll be really happy that I'll save that amount. And with Microsoft, they have these enterprise agreements and all these patch up. They even give you a lot of discount on top of that. And then when you, even for hosting, when you feel comfortable while developing, okay, say I have, okay, for authentication of that checklist, I'm using some table which is there, on SQL Server on premise, or say MongoDB on premise. Now for that, let's say while developing you feel like the way Azure was performing, you're happy with that. You can probably move a section of that application while being in a stage or in production to that, and see if you're happy with that. So in that way you'll get rid of your hardware as well, because see, understand, hardware management is not easy, and nobody wants to do that. That doesn't mean I'm saying the administrators will not have their job. Ultimately these administrators and developers have to converge at one place, probably doing the DevOps related stuff, or doing and or trying to resolve the higher issues, not actually watching the monitors and seeing whether it's available always. So that if that can be outsourced to someone else, you should be doing that. So Tariq, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I got it. So what I'm understanding is, in if I'm maybe I'm wrong. In simple word, Azure Cloud Solution to give us a set of services which help us to create a cloud solution. Is it correct?
Yes, it is. So it doesn't only help you to create a cloud solution, it helps you in making any solution cloud enabled. So if you have
Okay.
whatever you can think which exists in market in terms of technology, you can always have that in cloud. So you can always take those technology stacks and probably see what you can do in cloud, and implement that. So in that way, because cloud is, you understand, cloud is not only something which gives you 2 3 services. So whatever a technical guy can think of, you already have it in the form of services. And even if you don't have in the form of services, there are somebody who has already executed that stack. So they will probably be giving it to Microsoft, and they will offer you in the form of images. So you need not to go, say somebody wants to have say Oracle stack, or
Yeah.
say somebody wants SharePoint stack to be running. So you need not to go and do everything from the scratch, and bang your head with the infrastructure. Okay, small issues. You will get a standardized template which you can go and just execute it, and you'll have everything being provisioned, ready to be used, but in a standard way. So if you have some specific requirements where it requires your tweaking that application, you can probably go ahead and play with the configuration part of it. But in that way, you'll something which was needed like 10 days of efforts, you can probably do it in 10 hours, and use your times in more productive way.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so okay, so Praveen, do you have any question?
Yes, sir. Sir, I just want to know, like, what the exactly the Azure? It's a platform, or it is a operating system, or like what is it really? Just like a so .NET framework. .NET framework is a framework where we are developing the applications. So what is basically the Azure is in kind of that actually? Is there any kind of framework or operating system, or like what exactly?
Okay, okay, great. Okay, so when you say Azure, it's not a framework, it's not a Visual Studio, it's not even Active Directory or Office 365. So you can have all these things on Azure. So Azure gives you those basic infrastructure which can be leveraged, or which can be used to host other things. So say, okay, if you comes from a development background, you build your application. Now to build that application, you need Visual Studio. Now to run that Visual Studio, you need Windows servers. For all these Visual Studios and having servers and giving you a testing environment, that's what your administrators comes and they facilitate that job for you. They will give you a machine, or where you go, or they provision a machine where you RDP and do all these things. Whereas with Azure, what you can do, you can just go okay, say like I need a development environment with 5 people developing. On Visual Studio, they will give you, a Windows box, Windows servers with 5 different users connecting to that, doing the development. You can probably check in the version control part of it. So they will give you TFS or any equivalent version control as well. So most of the things which can get automated, you can automate it through Azure. So it's not actually a framework, but it offers a framework. So everything which is on Windows you can think of, or any even open source things, they are there. They can be achieved with Azure. So you think of Azure. That's what I said in the middle of it. It's infrastructure as a service. It's a platform as a service. It's software as a service. So if you need infrastructure, say Windows servers, Linux machines, you opt for infrastructure part of it. Or if you need something like platform, you go and okay, say boss, I need platform. It will offer you in the form of platform. Say like you have a NoSQL requirement where you want MongoDB kind of database for your workload. You just say okay, I need this. I have this requirement where I'm expecting these many users trying to connect every minute. You specify your requirement based on that. Azure behind the scene will provision the hardware optimized for that workload, optimized for that kind of database, and then install everything, manage everything, and give it to you in the form of a URL, or probably URL might be a wrong word, an endpoint with username and password, and everything which it needs. So you understood, Praveen?
Uh, Sir, I little bit clear about the Azure. Uh, it's not like we can install it on our personal machine. It's not right.
No. So it's not actually you installing it on your personal machine. It's like you subscribing to that. So for probably in the next session I'll walk you through the subscription of it, how you can get, because Azure gives you some free credits when you go and try to learn that. So probably for a month or 2 months we can get a free credit through one card, and we can use that for our requirement as well, and then just to get a feeling of what Azure is. So Microsoft itself just comes and help you guys, everybody who wants to learn Azure in that way, they will give you some $200 or some credit where you can go and play with their infrastructure and knows that. So what I would rather do, I'll after the session, probably tomorrow morning or somewhere, if I get some time tonight, I'll share few links with you guys which just explain the basic of cloud, or just gives you a gist of what to expect from Azure, because I see a lot of people new to Azure who doesn't have a background knowledge of what cloud is and how it emerges and all that. So I'll share the details with you, and then I'll share the link. If you can go and subscribe for Azure, that would be rather good. Or else tomorrow I'll walk you through like how to subscribe that there in Azure, and then from subsequent session we'll play with that. So I want most of the everybody to have a subscription. Whatever I'm talking, we should be doing hands-on, because that's what I said in the beginning, like we this would probably be the first and last session where we don't have any demo to show. From next session onwards we might not even have a slide. We'll probably have just one slide to set the agenda, and then we get into the portal. So when you say Azure, you get a subscription, you will see a portal where you will have different services, different offerings to play with that. So we'll probably, once we'll get in there, we'll have a clear picture of what to expect and what it is actually. So does that answer your question, Praveen?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Yeah, Tariq, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know one thing. Do we have anything similar in past with Microsoft, like Visio, or Visio is a totally new concept which introduced by Microsoft? Anything we can compare like with Visio?
Anything we can compare like with Visio?
Yeah,
Mm,
Azure.
with Azure? Okay. So not exactly. They so okay. So if you see the history, if you go and investigate the history of Azure, the way they started, and they saw the market being going towards that place where people are not ready to invest in the license, and people are not ready to invest in the COPEX model of functioning. So they were more intended towards something which can be managed by a third party, where they need not to go there. So Microsoft itself, it started Azure in the form of PaaS, platform as a service, where they were giving you all these things which you already have from Microsoft in the form of a platform. So say you use a SQL server, okay. For some use cases, for especially with the with the new companies coming in, the way market is functioning, you have small players coming in who are not ready, or who don't have resources to invest that much amount. So they don't want to buy those number of licenses and manage the hardware. For them, they have PaaS offering of SQL Server. They call it as SQL Azure. So you just go subscribe for that, and you're ready to use. You can access it through even the SQL Server Management Studio. So and the same thing for with all Visual Studio Online, where you go, you manage the documentation. It makes the management job of project management job is pretty easy, where everybody can come in and collaborate and discuss further. So it started from platform as a service offering. So they never had something similar to that, but later on, when they saw somebody like AWS or other cloud providers getting edge over Azure, because Azure never had the Linux or infrastructure as an offering, where they just give you a blank in say Windows servers or Linux servers or machines for you to provision. So because that way, with platform as a service, Azure was actually restricting a lot of workloads not to come to Azure way, because everything is not tailor made for platform as a service. So something, there are most of the workloads which and the bigger workloads which are not something which just can be taken care and lift and shift to the Azure the way they have offered it in the form of PaaS. So it requires some tweaking, some changes, some third party integration, some installation, or some dependency which can't be achieved through PaaS offering of it. So they moved into infrastructure as a service part also. So we'll have all these questions or these in a detailed way in subsequent sessions. So we'll have a clear picture of it. But to answer your question, no, Microsoft never had something
Yeah.
similar to Azure. That's something new which we have now.
Okay. Okay, great. I also try to learn about this more.
Sure, man, sure. So just do. I would rather encourage you guys to do this, because it's my I'm saying it from my personal front, and the way I have seen the market, the way it's moving. You know, Cloud is something you can't have even the smallest of discussion with even a smallest of technical guys, without mentioning cloud these days. Everybody wants to know about cloud, and coming from Microsoft background, it gives us a lot of edge if we know Azure, because in that way we can say I'm not restricted to only work on a developer on a development front. So if you say from US angle, people who get paid for developer is quite different what they get paid when they go on an architecture role. So to be an architect, you need to know a bit of infrastructure, a bit of management, a bit of development, a bit of everything. So that's where it helps you. And if you ask me, it's not tough. Azure is something, the way Microsoft has designed it is pretty easy to understand. Even somebody who doesn't know anything about infrastructure can just be as good as anybody else, in infrastructure part of it. Or even somebody who doesn't know the development, they can be as good with PowerShell as anyone is, because there are plenty of ways to manage that. It's not that you need to know PowerShell, or you need to know .NET to manage Azure. They have different ways to help you. You can go play with the portal and manage everything from there. They have different tools. You can install it on premise and play with that. So they have integrated it in a very generic way, where anybody can go and learn that. Yeah, Tariq.
Yeah, it's okay. Thanks.
All right, man. So anyone else have any questions?
Not from my side.
Okay, so great, guys. So this was a kind of an introductory session, where I wanted to know about you guys, where where you stand in terms of Azure cloud, and where cloud in general, and just to set the agenda right. you know so I'll probably be I have recorded this session, so for your reference I'll share this session with you as well. So if somebody has missed some part of this, they would understand that from that. And if you have any specific question or anything related to Azure, need not to be from this session. It could be anything. If somebody who has a bit of knowledge on Azure or cloud, and they feel like some questions which they might ask in the future, they can direct it to me. I'll probably find a limited way of answering those questions as well, so not a problem. You can always reach out to me, and we have to plan for the next session. So I mean, do you guys have any specific things to say, like when we can have the next session?